Hello, students. I hope you all are very hale and hearty at your home. Okay, students, it is said if speech is silver, silence is golden. For in the vast treasure of deep silence, one can find a large resource of peace and tranquility. Students, we need to be quiet and have introspect ourselves uh, just to have peace of mind. Okay, so keeping this in mind, today I have brought you one of the important and interesting poem that is Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. So, students, the poem was originally written by the poet in Spanish, but later translated into English. In this poem, the poet emphasizes on the necessity of introspection through which man can achieve unity and develop a feeling of brotherhood among mankind, among all mankind. The poet advocates the importance of silence and introspection. Okay, means introspection means when we observe ourselves. Okay, he asks us to keep still and quiet and look within and think about what they are doing. This will cleanse every heart and bring people closer. Okay, the underlying idea of the poem is that the world needs a short respite, a short interval of peace, as we can see in nature. Come winter, and the whole earth goes to sleep for a couple of months, but such inaction does not mean death. It is time to gather strength for a new life, better than before. The poet appeals to us to close war industries for a while, to stop violence, and to live in peace like brothers. Let us not rush madly to destroy our race and our civilization. Okay? So, students, before we move ahead, you can see in the picture, quiet means shant, means we have to meditate ourselves or being quiet. We can even mull over the things in a better way. Before we shall move ahead, let me tell you something more about the poet. The poet's real name was Neftali Ricardo Reyes Boselto. He was born on July 12, 1904 in Chile. Okay. In 1920, he, adopt, he adopted the pen name Pablo Neruda in the memory of Czechos, Czechoslovak poet Jan Neruda. Okay. He won Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. Pablo wrote over 140 poems, okay, and he died in 1973. Okay, okay. In the next slide, you can see the picture of Pablo Neruda. Okay, let us go through this poem line by line. The poem Keeping Quiet, written by Pablo Neruda. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let us not speak in any language. Let us stop for 1 sec and not move our arms so much. Students, in these given lines, the poem, the poet here is appealing to his readers to keep quiet and be still for a count of 12. The number 12 is significant of the time and the months of the year. He reminds us that time passes by without anyone realizing, and we do not take out the time to reflect on our thoughts and action. So he appeals us to be quiet for 1 second. In the line, for once in the face of this earth, Karagi, for once on the face of this earth, let us not speak in any language. Means, for once, for once here means um, Naruda here continues by telling us not to speak in any language. This refers to everyone in every part of the world keeping quiet together at the same time, and thus all men would be using the same language, that is that of silence. Means here the poet clearly directs we should be silent, and we should stop speaking any other language, because different languages create differences. Okay, so clear. And he also lays stresses on the using on not moving our arms. Here he has used pun. You know what pun is? Pun, here he has used pun in arms. Arms bole to arms has two meaning. Arms has two meaning. One is, you can say, hand, and second one is weapon. So here he asks us not to move our arms, our weapon so much, or stop doing all the activities. Okay, clear. He had also used words like once and 1 second, as he is appealing to the readers to do something that they had never done before. Okay, so here the poet appeals us to be quiet for a second, for a moment, and to stop all the activities. Okay, he all ठीक है. Let us move to the next slide. Okay, here you can see in the picture, the poet asks us to be quiet and not to speak in any language for 1 second, for a moment, so that no differences could be arisen. Okay, it would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engine. We will all be together in a sudden strangeness. Here, the poet calls it an exotic moment. Exotic means unusual, unusual. Okay, you can say strange. So here the poet calls uh, it would be an exotic moment. It would be a strange moment when we all are silent and no activity is being done. Okay, okay, and that moment would be without rush, without engine. Means no sounds of engine would emerge. Okay, there would be an utmost tranquility and peace. Okay, and we will all be together in a sudden strangeness. Okay, clear. uh, Here in this stanza, the poet also calls the moment of silence an exotic one. In this moment of complete stillness, there would be no rushing around and competing with each other, and no machine or engines would be turned on. Thus, man would be united with the rest of the world and feel integrated and bound by a common link of peace and quietness. Means, uh, whenever we travel by a bus or train, we certainly uh, remain among strangers. At that time, we don't speak with anyone. uh, okay, and there might be a stillness or silence of strangeness, and we will all be together then in that strangeness. Okay, so here the poet also calls that with this rest of the world, okay, uh, everyone is bound in a common link of peace and quietness. Clear? I hope you have understood this one also. In the next stanza, he says, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands, would not would look at his hurt hands. not here is wrongly written. Okay, here the poet has brought in two images of fishermen, as you can see here in this uh, slide. Fishermen in the cold sea, when they stop doing the things, they would they would stop harming the whales. Okay, in such a way they would for a moment not harm the nature. Okay, here fisherman represents man's misuse of nature and for what, for his own benefit and interests. Okay, and the man gathering salt uh, on the sea beach, when he stopped gathering the salt, he would look at his hurt hand. In this stanza, the fisherman who hunts whales, and of a man, uh, and a man who has injured his hand by collecting salt. The poet here, the poet says that this moment of silence would suspend all violence against fish and animals. The fishermen won't hit whales with harpoons, and the workers gathering salt will get time to look at his hurt hands. Okay, he emphasizes how man has exploited nature for his own purpose and interest without thinking about the destruction he is causing to the environment. Okay, as the poet mentioned earlier, um man is in such a hurry to progress that he turns a blind eye to the pain and suffering that he himself undertakes. Okay, let's move to next stanza. Those who prepare green walls, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. In this in this stanza, Neruda says that in this moment of silence, all warfare would be stopped, and the world will stop producing deadly gases, bullets and bombs. Okay, here those who prepare green wars, here green wars stands for those who um those who cause devastation of the environment. Okay, clear, must stop as there is widespread destruction and loss of innocent lives. Okay, the poet wants a man to cleanse himself physically and mentally. Okay, he says those who run wars against nature and human race, they will certainly get victory, but this victory cannot be celebrated as they would not have any survivor to celebrate it. Okay, so to repent, they would put on clean clothes and walk in the shade with their brothers doing nothing. Thus, at this time, all killings and damage would cease. Okay, means once we run amok, there would be nothing to celebrate, and we have to repent on our doing. Clear? Let us move to our next. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single minded about keeping our life moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Students, in this line, in this line, the poet is does not advocate uh, total inactivity. Okay, clear? Okay, he does not advocate total inactivity. Uh, he simply advises deep introspection and asks us to not to indulge in activities that are mindless and that might lead to the destruction of ecosystem. Okay, students, as you know, life is what we make it. Life is what we make it. Okay, Life is an ongoing process. Okay. uh, it is still, it is not still, it is always in process. Okay. uh, Here the poet, with the line, "I want no truck with death," he has used euphemism, saying he is not going to tolerate any kind of idleness and laziness or inactivity. Okay. He asks us to remain busy or to keep life moving. Okay. Okay. And he also threatens, if we uh, remain so, okay, if we remain so idle and inactive, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of which, of never understanding our capability. Okay. And doing nothing, we have threatened ourselves with death. Perhaps perhaps the earth can teach us, when everything seems dead, let it prove to be alive. Here the poet feels that the earth teaches us how everything comes to a dead end and then comes to life again. In the same manner, from this hour of silence, introspection, and inactivity, one can learn the need to bring all evil thoughts to their end and to revive a new life of peace and tranquility. The poet brings an end to the session of introspection, instructing instructing men to keep quiet, and then leaves them in deep tranquility. Okay. In simple word, uh, I can say the earth teaches a valuable lesson through the apparent stillness uh, of the winter season, when the surface is bare and still, but in the soil underneath, the roots of a new plant are spreading. The earth nurtures and protects this new life, waiting for the right time, that is spring, when the new plant will blossom and bloom. Okay. Okay. And in the last two lines, the poet is ready to leave us, uh, as he has now convinced his readers the necessity of introspection and think about what they are doing. Thus, he tells them to count to 12 and he would go.